This Samsung mini split air conditioner is showing errors. I will tell you how to fix these errors. The first error displayed is E122. Why does this error occur on a Samsung air conditioner, and what are the reasons behind it? I will explain everything in detail. When the E122 error shows up on the display, it indicates that there is a fault in the indoor PCB. Now, what kind of fault occurs in the PCB? Let me explain. There are sensors installed here, and specifically, there are 3 sensors. I will now take out all 3 sensors, and here is their connector. The faulty sensor is the blue one, and when this blue sensor short circuits, the unit displays the E122 error. Additionally, 2 pipe coil sensors are installed here in this coil, and this entire pipe coil is called the evaporator. Along with this, both pipe coil sensors must be positioned exactly correctly. If it's installed incorrectly, it will cause problems. Furthermore, the sensor's ohms or kilo ohms value must also be correct. Let's talk about this blue wire pipe coil sensor and check it. The thermistor is installed at the point where the refrigerant enters the evaporator of the indoor unit. If this sensor is installed in the wrong location, it will start giving the error. So, you need to keep this in mind to avoid such issues. Let's discuss the resistance value of this sensor. At 24 degrees, how much value does it show? Set the multimeter to kilo ohms, and when we checked the value, it showed 10.49 kilo ohms. Even if the value goes up to 11 kilo ohms, there is no problem. Now, the E121 error is being displayed, so I will provide complete details about why this error code appears and the ways to fix it. When the error occurs, what could be faulty? Let me explain this to you now. As we have already removed the indoor PCB cover, let me tell you that this is a problem with the indoor room sensor. When the indoor room sensor becomes faulty, it causes an issue. Let me show you. The black wire you see here, this is the connector. I will remove this connector and show you. Here is where the connector is attached, and there are 3 sensors connected to this connector. The black wire sensor is the room temperature sensor, and when it gets damaged, becomes faulty, or short circuits, the unit shows the E121 error. Additionally, its position should be correct. It needs to be placed on the evaporator. If its position is incorrect, it can still cause problems. Let's talk about the room sensor and its resistance value, which you should know. I will tell you how much the resistance value should be. We will test the black wire sensor. The room temperature is currently 23 degrees, and the multimeter is set to kilo ohms. It should display some value in kilo ohms. When we check the room sensor, its value should be 10.33 kilo ohms. If you get this value, the room sensor is perfectly fine, and you can install it. Now, the display is showing the E123 error. I will explain this fault in detail and why it appears in the unit. This error indicates that the middle pipe or center evaporator coil sensor is faulty. As I already showed you the PCB, here is the sensor that has been removed, and the connector goes in at this point. The red sensor, if it becomes faulty or short circuits, it causes the E123 error. It's important to remember that this sensor is installed on the evaporator, and it has a specific place in the evaporator where it must be installed. If it's not positioned correctly, this error can appear. Additionally, there is a blue wired thermistor installed at the point where the refrigerant enters, and the red one is installed in the middle of the evaporator, in the center. If it's installed correctly in this position, it will work perfectly. Moreover, if the 3 faults I mentioned are not getting resolved, you need to check the PCB. There should be 5 volts present at all its points. If 5 volts are available, the problem could be with the microcontroller. Now, let's talk about when the sensor gets damaged and the E123 error appears. What will be its resistance value? At 24 degrees, how much does it show? Set the multimeter to kilo ohms again, and when we check the red sensor, its value should be 10.39 kilo ohms. Even if it goes a bit higher, it doesn't matter. You can still install it. Now I'll give you a bonus tip. Sometimes the unit displays a sensor fault, but when we check the sensor with a multimeter, its resistance value appears to be completely correct. In such a situation, my experience is that installing a new sensor usually solves the problem. However, in very rare cases, the fault could also be in the PCB. Click on the left or right thumbnail to watch our next videos, and subscribe. Thank you.